Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at Netflix. It is time for another update. Also, an update was requested by one of the followers and I wanted to let you know that anyone can make these requests and I will most likely cover them, especially if there is an actionable trade setup to follow. And on this chart, on the large time frame, we are still tracking a very bullish scenario where we have basically a series of 1-2 setups to begin with, and then a larger 1-2 here, another 1-2 here, where this would be the third wave up, fourth wave down, and then a fifth wave to the upside. As opposed to the previous videos, I did a small simplification of the structure where we could have here a double 1-2-1-2 setup, but I decided to be tracking only a singular 1-2 for simplicity's sake. Yeah, this still works out perfectly. And then I would be looking here for a fifth wave to be unfolding in a 5-wave move to the upside. Now, this wave 5 could be indeed an ending diagonal, and that is what we will end up tracking if we fail to hold here the area of support, since we did get quite an extension to the downside since the previous video. But right now we are still holding this area with the levels between the $110 all the way down to the $88.9 level. That would allow us to even track a potential impulse within this area. And with that said, we can move here into the shorter time frame where we are tracking this area, this correction of the wave 4, and we are looking at an extension of the orange interpretation we were tracking previously, where we were looking for a third wave to bottom in the sooner rather than later term in this area, but we appear to have gotten an extension, and this actually requires a slight shift in the internal structure of this wave C for the orange scenario. And again, we would be tracking the same pattern ABC movement, but it would require this wave C to unfold within some different parameters, some different expectations, where I would need to consider, instead of the wave 1 bottom here, I would need to consider a larger ABC structure within the wave 1, allowing here this to be an ABC in a wave 1, and we would still be tracking an ending diagonal within the wave C, but it would need me to adjust here even this area of resistance that would have been used for the wave 2, and we did use it. It was just under slightly different parameters, and it would have touched perfectly here within this wave 2 the 50% retracement before getting rejected and continuing to the downside. And then in this wave 3 to the downside, now I would need to consider a larger ABC pattern to be unfolding. And in such a scenario, I would actually likely need the wave 3 to still go a little bit lower within an A wave down here, a B wave up, and then a C wave to the downside unfolding. Now, as you may notice, we are heading towards the end of the support area for the white scenario, and we would still be to complete the third wave in the orange interpretation, where we would still expect afterwards a fourth and a fifth. And this could very likely break the last level of support in the white scenario. And luckily, while this pattern can still work out and allow such development, I may have a scenario right now based on the latest extension that would allow an early completion of the correction in the wave 4, where we won't necessarily need here the fourth and the fifth to still form. We may form a bottom sooner rather than later in such a scenario. Now, before we get there, I want to go quickly here through this time frame. So the wave 3, in the case of the orange interpretation, would have been expected to reach the ideal target at the 138.2% extension of the wave 1. Yeah, this is perfectly already touched and it got a reversal. So technically, while this pattern could be complete, I'm not necessarily convinced. Even though we have reached the ideal target, we could easily see extensions. And in the orange scenario here, we would be expecting still likely another low within this wave C in orange, where probably we would have here a wave 1 down, a wave 2 up, and then a third wave down, although this wave 3 would already be quite short. But yeah, maybe in this time frame it could still work out. We would have gotten probably to the 100% extension of the wave A in such an interpretation, or sorry, of the wave 1. And again, internally we are tracking a 5-wave move to the downside. And yeah, we did push a little bit lower, so it is not the shortest wave. It is sufficient for us to allow this to be a valid count, although again, not a likely interpretation. When the third wave fails to reach the 138.2% extension, which is very much in line with the 50% retracement, it is a signal that it is probably not the correct structure to be tracked. Now, with that said, we can still be looking here, even in the orange interpretation, for a relevant area of resistance for such a case, for a wave 4, which would be between the levels at the $95 all the way up to the $99.8 level, where so far we have formed a 3-wave to the upside into the 38.2% retracement, although I want to mention this could be a larger ABC movement unfolding as well. Yeah, there is no reason to believe this is impossible, and in that case we may even get to the ideal target of the wave 3, the 138.2% extension, which again, in line with the 50% retracement. This could play out, and it would likely, very likely suggest that this overall pattern in white will not hold. But right now, as I was mentioning, there is a possibility for a different interpretation due to the structure that has formed within this area, where a 5-wave move to the downside isn't necessarily likely to work out in the prettiest necessary structure. And that would be here in blue, what we will be tracking from now on. We will continue to track the orange interpretation as well, but yeah, not necessarily the highest probability for me. And with that said, we can shift fully to the blue interpretation, the blue scenario, in which case we would instead be looking for a possible WXY pattern, where the wave W would be where the wave A was in orange, the wave X would where the wave B was, and now the wave Y to the downside, in which we expect to form an ABC structure instead. Well, in this pattern, we would be tracking in the wave C itself a 5-wave move to the downside within an ending diagonal. In this case, we would have an ABC structure here, all the same as in the orange interpretation. Yeah, this would be a wave 1 instead of a wave wave 2 up here, and then a wave 3 to the downside that in this case could actually easily be complete. And why I am focusing here on this interpretation in blue is because this could actually still allow a completion of the white scenario, and this would actually allow this structure to work better because it can be tracked as a possible ABC movement to the downside instead. Again, remember, this structure has gotten perfectly to the 100% extension, yeah, not the ideal target for the wave 3, but for an internal ABC structure, that is actually spot on. Yeah, this actual structure that has occurred within this area, from the top that has formed here on December 2nd to the bottom that has formed locally, this works much better as an ABC structure. Again, extensions could allow the orange scenario to still take control and have much lower extensions, but right now, in the blue interpretation, we can actually find a bottom after the correction here in a wave 4 and a 5th wave to the downside to complete the larger wave C, completing the even larger wave Y within this correction in the wave 4. And in such an interpretation, I would actually only need here to push into the area of resistance in blue, which is between the $96 level all the way up to the $102 level, $102.8 level instead, actually, apologies, at the 61.8% retracement, and then form another ABC structure in a wave 5 to the downside. Now, ideally, we would form a wave 4 comparable in proportions to this wave 2 correction that has occurred, and then, yeah, we continue in our downtrend and still push lower, where, yeah, hopefully we manage to hold the area of support in the white interpretation to allow an impulse to be tracked on this chart overall here on the larger time frame. Yeah. Now, with that said, here, I don't know why this keeps appearing, into this correction so far, again, we only have a 3-wave structure, but we have already pushed into the area of resistance, although if we don't extend larger here within the wave 4, I could actually assume that this pattern to the downside isn't necessarily complete and that it could actually still extend. Yeah, there is no reason for me to believe that this could not see further extensions, but right now there aren't any obvious areas of resistance or patterns to watch out for. This is quite choppy. Yeah, this does look a lot more like an ABC, not even necessarily a 1, 2, 3, 4th and the 5th that would have unfolded in this area, but honestly, yeah, not much to do on this time frame. It is too small, and for now, these are the levels. This is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.